Welcome to Authors in Conversation, where I sit down with the best genre writers working today. These conversations, which I love doing, are made possible because of your support. So I thank you for hitting the like button and subscribing to this channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. And now, Tanya Pell.
Before we get started, I have to ask an embarrassing question. I'm sure I have egg on my face because I've been talking about your work on previous videos.
I already know what it's going to be.
You know what it's going to be.
I bet I do.
What is the pronunciation of your new book?
It's Cicada.
Next up, we have Cicada, about a giant killer cicada. I read Cicada by Tanya Pell, and Cicada is about Cicada, about her other work. Yeah, so I don't want to say too much about Cicada, this movie about this killer cicada.
It's Cicada. But you know what? So I'm from the American South, and so I can't even say certain words the way other people do. So like there are certain words I cannot speak. So I understand. I totally understand.
Do you have a physical copy of the book to show us?
I do. So it's my
there it is.
baby. Oh, and I'm in mirror mode, but you can imagine. So here's my book, baby.
Because I had the ebook version, and they did a really good job of, like, when you're scrolling through it, it kind of looks like a VHS. Do you have that in the print?
Yeah, so the same is here, like with a little play.
Yes.
Yes. And if you order the physical copy, it actually comes in essentially what looks like an old Blockbuster box, like a VHS box.
Okay, fine. I think you found the right level of
Thank you.
nostalgia. Yeah.
I wanted it to be, and again, like hearkening to the whole series as a whole, like as a whole, this is a VHS series, and this was 80s and 90s. You know, we went down to our local Blockbuster or our hole in the wall little VHS store, and we picked out our tapes, and you know, you had the ice cream truck, and you have these very fond memories of these things that we have fond nostalgia for. And even the series itself, which is marketed as Goosebumps for adults. So we look back, you know, my generation's like we read Goosebumps as children by R.L. Stine. And so now we're reading these as adults. So I wanted it to feel nostalgic without actually saying, man, it was so much better when I was a kid. Because I think that's where you draw the line
Right. Because it probably was.
like, was it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or were you just a kid?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly. Now, I read some reviews of this where they said, don't think too much, just try to have fun. Or
yes.
no, don't think too much, like have fun. Like this, because it is definitely a fun read and you're going for a bus. And
Thank you.
I'm very happy that I read the reviews after I had read the book, because I do not like people telling me to have fun. Have fun.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me what to do.
No, that's too much pressure. I don't know how to have fun.
Hey.
But am I overthinking things, or is there probably a little bit more to this story?
So I had to laugh when I read the reviews for the first time because I used to teach English language arts, so literature. And English teachers can make symbolism and metaphor out of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think writers are very good about that as well. But I was looking at some of the things that people wrote, and I was like, did I do that?
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure if I did that deliberately. So certain aspects of it, the idea of Ash coming into her own realization and metamorphosis, I suppose but if I did it, I'm gonna admit I didn't necessarily do it intentionally, but it did kind of follow the same story arc. The town of Revelation, though, that of course was deliberate because initially I had meant this to be a novel before it got picked up by Shortwave, and there was going to be a little bit more to Revelation as a cult.
Right, okay.
And very biblical plague sort of situation, but I was just like, you know what? I'm leaving it. I love this town. This is the name of the town.
Okay, right.
And she's going there to have a revelation. We're leaving it. We're leaving it.
Okay, good. Good. And how did you get involved with this? Because this is the third of the VHS.
It's the fourth.
It's the fourth. My mistake. How did you get involved with this?
So I had worked with Shortwave and Alan on a few projects. Like at the time, I think, oh, two or three short stories. And I knew Alan was doing this series, and the first one had come out, and the second one had been announced, and we knew it was coming out. And he liked my work, and I loved working with Shortwave. And so I pitched a couple of ideas, and he's like, I like it, but I like it, but. And then I said, well, I'm about 15,000 words into this really weird novel. And I gave him the pitch for it. He's like, done. I want it. Can I have it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So it's like, yes, I'll cut it down to novella and it's yours.
And this central character, Ash, right?
Yes. Yes.
She is in a relationship with a loser, really.
With the loser.
And
We've
so,
all known a Richie. We have
no,
all known a Richie.
but that's my question. Why? It seems to happen all the time. Why are these girls, these women, Why do they always end up with these Richies?
Oh God, like it's a deep dive.
Is it?
I will say that Ash has her problems too.
Oh,
Ash is
yeah.
a
We'll get to that.
Ash
Yeah.
is from page one, Ash admits to being a bitch. Like she is not playing. She is very independent, very opinionated, very will put you in your place very quickly. She's kind, but she's also not going to put up with it. But she found herself in a situation where she's going to put up with it again and again and again and again and again. And I think that's what a lot of the female readers connected with, as far as this is a feminine rage story, but it's rage from page one. It's not a slow burn, because we've all known that gaslighter, the one that can make us feel like, oh my God, maybe I am crazy. And the one that can push our buttons just the right amount in public so that we appear like the crazy one.
Yes. Okay.
So, and I think a lot of that stems from, to your question, is why do women find them? I think women a lot of the times think that they are going to be the ones that teach the dog to speak,
Okay.
that teach the horse to drink water. They're
Right.
going to be, now, I've got it. No one else has been able to do it, but I can.
Okay. That makes
So,
sense. That makes sense. And the gaslighting definitely came through, like you said, from page one. But then this, I guess, hunky, kind fire marshal enters the scene.
yeah, the EMT with
EMT.
the fire marshal, and like he's got his pyrotechnics license, and she's like, well, he's hot.
He's hot,
So,
and he has a lot more patience than I would have had. I mean, coming to the read from a male perspective.
absolutely. So, and then but see, and then I wanted it to be like that, where she's like pivot. So she has this immediate, like almost visceral reaction to this man who shows her the tiniest bit of appreciation
Right.
and like acknowledgement, and saying, "Oh, I hear you." And then she's like, "Oh my God." So I needed to be the most obnoxious foil to Richie that I could come up with. I needed them to be total opposites, because we all know, and like spoilers a little bit, we know it's never going to work with this guy. It's a rebound. We don't even know where they each live.
It's not.
But
It's not going to work. I feel
I mean, I'm not there, but I'm going to
Okay.
assume
Okay. I'm kind
it's
of
a speed
relieved.
situation.
I'm relieved to hear that because I was feeling for the guy, and I was like, no, this is not gonna work. This is
Or
she's.
she's honest with him. She's like, "Really?
I
So
was,
you like this?" And he's like, "Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and I
Yeah,
was
you'll
thinking,
like that for a little."
right, that was
So,
my thinking too. I was like, oh, he's being so nice to her, and she's okay.
yes.
Anyway, but I was
Yes.
thinking in Cicada 2, it's gonna be his revelation. Okay,
I
well,
made a joke to Alan at Shortwave. I said if we do any sequels, it's got to be based off of like the Alien arcs. It's got to be Cicada and then Cicadas and then Cicada Revelations. I
okay.
have to do it like Aliens.
And was there always a cicada, even when you're working on the novel form? Was that
Oh
always the
yeah.
insect of choice?
It was always a cicada. It was I had I'd loved like a bunch of I love B movies. I
Right.
love B movie horror. And so I had been writing this while I was writing something else just for fun. And I wanted it to kind of be my love letter to B movie horror.
And you mentioned like B movie horror, but are there other horror writers, books that got you responsible for making you a horror fan?
Oh, so many. If I had to, so I mean, I think nearly like every horror writer that's working right now can pen a love letter to Alvin Schwartz and to almost a lesser extent Stephen Gamble, who did the illustrations for Alvin Schwartz's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Like they're beautiful and they're creepy, and we all checked them out of the library until they were like falling apart. For me, it was The Queen of the Scholastic Book Fair, which was Mary Downing Hahn, who I just adored growing up. And now my daughter reads Mary Downing Hahn. It just makes me so happy.
See, I think we're different generations. Those are two names that I don't know.
Those were so they're middle grade
Okay.
horror, and
Okay.
that's like, where I started with again with the R.L. Stein and Fear Street and Christopher Pike and things like that. But those were for younger readers. And so I started in that, and then I moved on to, of course, Stephen King, as we all did. But also for me was Christopher Golden, who
Okay.
I started reading at the tender age of 14, and I absolutely have loved everything he's ever done, and I always appreciated his writing, and I actually um shot the most ridiculous shot you can imagine an unknown author doing. And he had messaged me about a review I had done for his book. And I was like, if you ever want to work together. And he's like, I don't work with people I don't know. I was like, that's
Yeah.
fair. And he's like, but send me something and I'll read it. And I sent it. And he's like, you know what? Let's do it. And I'm like, really?
And did you guys put something out together?
We did. It's not come out yet. It was supposed to, but the project was canceled. So now we're just waiting for the right place for that to come out. So it's
Wow.
not a secret though.
Okay. This is not a
Yeah.
big scoop for the channel. No.
I'm sorry. Like he actually announced it before I knew we could even announce it. And I was like, okay,
Wow, that's great. And
thanks.
now I've only read one Christopher Golden.
hmm
What do you think is the best like place to start if you want to become a Christopher Golden fan?
So what I love is he's got something for everyone. So, whether if you were a Buffy fan, of course he have his Buffy work. If you were a comic fan, he has his X-Men. He wrote the first X-Men novels. Um, I actually really love his uh Baltimore, which is based off of the Steadfast Tin Soldier, but with vampires. Um, but if I was going to say a novel alone, then I am going to go with Road of Bones,
Okay.
which I
Mhm.
think was 4 years ago, maybe
Sounds about
more.
right.
But I love that book, and it is. I mean, it's going to be cliche because it's based in Siberia on the actual Road of Bones, but it is a chilling horror novel, and all the characters are so real, and the entire time you think you might have an idea of what's going on, and you're like, oh, I'm so wrong.
Okay, good. Are there? Do you think this is a good time for horror? This I ask everybody that. I mean,
This is
I
a great time for horror.
that's what I want
This
to
is
believe. I haven't been having good luck as a reader though recently. But why is it a good?
this is
What am I doing
this
wrong?
is the horror renaissance. So horror is having, and actually this is something I discussed with him um when I had called him to ask him some questions about something. Um Horror is having such a renaissance right now, especially women in horror,
Yes, yeah.
like where you're seeing that on the steady rise. Um, but I think it's a way for people to process so many things. But I think this is probably the biggest renaissance of horror since the 80s when we had the mass market paperbacks and the zebra covers, and which I miss so terribly.
The
Even though I'm not that
that's my
generation,
generation.
but
Yeah, and the covers were great back then.
the covers were amazing. I still have some like from like secondhand bookstores. Where I'm like, oh man, we should go back.
And I have to ask this. This is an embarrassing question, personal question here. But why horror? Why do you write horror? And I have to ask this because, very specifically, my my mother is constantly saying to me, Michael, why don't you write something nice? Why do you have to write all this nasty stuff? And I don't have a good answer for her. And I am kind
Oh,
of
my mother
curious.
does the same.
See, okay, that's reassuring.
My mother is just like, why can't you be normal?
Right.
What did why did I raise such morbid children? Um, and she's also asked me when are you going to write something normal that I like?
Yes, I get that a lot. Yeah.
Never. Um, I I think with horror, one is it's horror is fun. Horror is engaging. Horror demands a reaction out of you.
Okay.
So it's not it's not a copy paste. And I'm not trying to say that every other genre is just copy paste, but if you read one, you know, fairy fantasy, they kind of tend to follow all the same character arcs. This is not to say anything for me because I love fantasy and I love fairy fantasy. My academic background is fairy tales. But I think with horror, what you end up with is a way for you to process so many more emotions and on a deeper level. So I think horror writers, especially, you have to be empathetic because you have to be able to know not just why and how the main character is going to respond to these situations, but how and why the villain or the monster is going to act in those situations. Like what has made the monster a monster? And in a lot of ways, I think that horror, and especially with what you have nowadays with the rise in grief horror, is we have a way to channel those feelings and those talking points that before we were told, no, put that away. That's not for polite
Right.
conversation.
Right.
So now we have this chance to actually come out and say, I have been hurt by this. I can channel this into this work. I can give this monster an actual name. I can anthropomorphize this monster, and then I can go in and fight this demon on its level.
That's a great,
So
yeah, that's a great point. I'm gonna share that with my mother next
Oh,
time she says that. Get off my
yay!
back. I'm empathetic.
Just like never, mom, never. I'm sorry.
But you used the term I had not heard before, grief horror. I've
Hmm.
never heard that before.
So I was actually on a panel recently in oh God, where was I? In near Boston for Spooktastic on a panel with Daniel Kraus and Clay McLeod Chapman and Nat Cassidy, Catherine Silva, a couple others, where we talked about grief horror and trauma in the horror sphere. And what nearly everybody on that panel had done, at least at one point, is take a a loss or a trauma, and we had put that into a story and kind of exorcised those demons as best we could. And I think you see a lot of that now. Um, Most recently, and not to toot my own horn, but also to kind of toot my own horn.
Toot?
I did a story in the anthology Mother Knows Best,
Yes.
which was edited by Lindy Ryan. And that is an all women in horror anthology with Haley Piper, Rachel Harrison, Tegan King, so many others. And we, the whole book is essentially dealing with the mother wound or mama trauma. So we all took things that we have dealt with either with our own mothers or with the lack of mothers or even as a mother, and we put that in the horror sphere and we examined our trauma from that lens.
And it has, you mentioned Haley Piper, who has been on my TBR for ages. So,
She is lovely.
okay. That's what I hear.
She
I hear
is
good
a
things.
lovely human, and she she's one of those people that I mean, it's so funny because she can just rip your heart out and kind of make you cringe with the gore, but then she'll write the most beautiful sentence, and you're just like, what? The juxtaposition of Haley Piper is amazing. Now, Haley Piper is also an obsolescent, which I
Okay.
wrote for,
Yes. Yeah.
and she had one of my favorite pieces in that one.
And what was your piece in Obsolescent is shortwave? No.
Obsolescence is
Okay.
shortwave, but that was actually my first time working with shortwave.
Okay.
Um, Mine was called Sleep Study,
Okay.
and I am a narcoleptic.
In your story or
So
in real life?
in real life,
Okay. Okay.
so I have narcolepsy type 2. Most people don't know that there's a type.
I know
So
very little about this. Right.
so typically when people think of narcolepsy, you think of what like the media shows, and it's just like, oh, you just fall asleep. And you
Mhm.
like, which is called cataplexy when your muscles just sort of kind of automatically relax. Um, I do not have cataplexy, but I'll do things like micro sleep, or I'll have hallucinations, daytime hallucinations. Um, but my most common symptom is sleep paralysis. And if you're not familiar with
I'm not.
sleep paralysis is where when you are your body paralyzes you when you sleep so that you cannot act out your dreams.
Okay.
It's a it is a evolutionary trait so that we do not do the things that we are dreaming about. The problem with narcoleptics a lot of the time, and people that experience sleep paralysis, is our body remains paralyzed, but we wake up. So our brain wakes up, but our body stays completely paralyzed. You cannot move. At most, you can just like kind of like, and your brain, when your eyes are open, you have hypnagogic or hypnopoptic hallucinations, depending on when you fall into REM sleep, and your brain fills in the gaps. So you're paralyzed. If you're paralyzed, your brain is telling you, I am in danger. The only reason I would be paralyzed is because I am in freeze mode, which means there is something here that is going to hurt me. So your brain fills in the gaps and your eyes are open. So you see things and you hear things and sometimes you feel things and it's yeah.
It sounds
So
terrifying, actually.
it is incredibly terrifying if you experience it. I mean some people I guess learn how to lucid dream. I am not one of the chosen, I guess, because I can't and I can't wake myself up either. Um so you will see absolutely horrific things while you're in this state. And the only way to get out of it is either to have someone wake you up or to go back to sleep. And a lot of times, eventually, your body just kind of gets so exhausted from being in this adrenaline place where you can't move, is it just shuts down and you go to sleep. So, but it is so my my story, Sleep
Right.
Study, is based on my ordeals as a narcoleptic who experiences severe sleep paralysis and who has undergone sleep studies. So, where they hook you up to all these machines and someone watches you sleep in this little room.
My goodness. I don't know if we're not breaking news here on this channel, but congratulations are in order, I think.
Yes, thank you.
Because
Uh,
I don't know how when this happened, but I found out about it recently. You have just
yeah,
signed a two-book deal with
two-book deal with
Galley.
Gallery Simon and Schuster.
Fantastic.
So, thank you.
That's great.
The I'm very excited. I got amazing news about the first book yesterday that I can't share yet, and I got on the Zoom call with my agent yesterday, and my agent, who is very calm and put together, was just like, "Thank you so much." Um, but the first book, Her Wicked Roots, comes out October 7th of 2025.
Her Wicked Roots. I like that title.
Her Wicked Roots. It is a
Okay.
gothic
Okay.
tale loosely based off of the short story Rappaccini's Daughter by Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Okay. Which I'm not familiar with.
So heavy gothic, light body horror,
Okay.
all all dark and secretive. Um, expect many candles in dark hallways and lush reclusive gardens and
Okay. All right.
so
Nice.
so so much darkness. Um, And then the second book, which we've not formally announced the title or what it's about yet, but it will come out in October of 2026. It is done, it is drafted, it is just waiting to be polished.
Nice. You're well ahead of the curve then. You're two books ahead. Yeah.
Everything in publishing either happens very slowly or very fast. There is no in between. And then Alan, again, Shortwave, just dropped the news that we've had secreted away for I think about a year and a half now that there is a collaborative project. I'm not going to say anything about what it is or when it's coming out, and that part I don't know. Um, with that I'm also a part of with like Todd Kiesling and Sina Plio and some others. So I'm excited.
And I'm sorry, that's set to come out. You don't know yet.
I don't know. And Alan's
2025.
just teased it right now.
Okay.
He's just teasing. He's like, we have a thing.
But
So
in any case, you are a horror writer to watch for 2025.
I hope so.
You are,
Like
and you
I,
can, and the viewers can start watching right now because Cicada is available already.
it is out in the world and it was very kind that it was just put on to Vulture, which is like New York Magazine, that's the entertainment, as listed as one of the top horror books of 2024 so far. which was very kind,
Yes, that's nice.
very nice.
There have been some good ones. Yeah.
I was like, I really appreciate this.
How would you
Thank you,
want?
Emily Hughes.
How
Hmm?
would you want, in an ideal world, how would you want the readers to prepare themselves to experience Cicada?
See, you don't want me to tell people what to do. I want them to go in and I want people to honestly feel like you're about to watch a B movie.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
Like a B movie horror, because I mean that is genuinely those are my favorites. And they weren't big budget, but they hit all the right places. There's this underlying thing going on, but then there's also this monster. So, and we're gonna get a few laughs in on the way. So that's what I'd like. I'd like everybody to come in being like, I'm ready to watch a B movie. Get your popcorn, get your favorite like fountain beverage, and just sit back.
Okay. I read it on a 2-hour crammed bus ride in Latvia, and just like people squeezing in on me, and I'm with my
That's
laptop there. But it was very nice because I don't do well in that kind of confined spaces, and
hmm
it did take me out of there. I was in
Oh, I'm
revelation
so
for a few
glad.
hours. Yeah, I was so glad too. So thank you for that. And do you have any, or have you read any books that you can recommend for the
Oh,
viewers and for
so
me?
many.
I've been
So
in a
many.
little bit of a drought for me in the
You've been in a little bit of a drought. Okay. So,
horror.
if I'm going like let's go to the big ones. Like so Paul Tremblay's horror movie I thought was incredible. Like
Okay.
there is a chapter midway through. It's about where I think it takes you about 5 minutes to read, where it's like this still shot from a movie, and you are invested. Nothing is happening, but you are invested and you are on the edge of your seat because you are waiting, because you know it's about to happen.
Okay.
Um,
I've liked him
Josh
before,
Malerman's,
so
yeah,
so okay.
Incidents Around the House.
Yes, I've heard that's
I
a good
met,
one.
I texted, or I texted, I messaged him over Twitter, and I was just like, I'm sending you all my therapy bills, because,
Okay.
because my God, because again, narcoleptic sleep paralysis. This one's a tough one.
Okay.
Yeah, turn around, look. What's some other good ones? Oh, Ellen Datlow just came out with her latest um antho called Fears, which
Okay.
is a collection of psychological horror, and there are some
That's my jam.
incredible pieces in there. Um, what else we got? What else have I just looked at? Um, I know that Aaron E. Adams' Jackal. I read this a while ago, but it just came out over in the UK, I think today or yesterday. And that is one of the most beautiful horror books I've ever read. It's like a horror thriller. It is incredible. It is visceral. I had the amazing opportunity to sit with her on a reading and tell her how much I loved her. But she probably thinks like I'm like this crazy stalker at this point, because I'm like, oh my God, I love your books. Um, for the little ones, I always recommend anything like right now with my daughter, we're doing Laura Semp's third, the loneliest place from the
Okay.
Clackety series. So I've always got so many books on my TBR list. It's
Yeah.
shameful.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. Well, you are the horror writer to look out for in 2025.
No,
Well, I mean
thank you.
that's the way I'm billing this video. And I can speak on behalf of all the viewers, myself and all the viewers. We are wishing you much continued success
Thank you.
with Cicada, and with what you've got coming out with Gallery.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Her
so
Wicked Roots.
her wicked roots. Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank
We're wishing you much continued success, and I want to encourage the viewers to check out Cicada, which Vanity. No, what was the name of the magazine that calls it one of the best books of 2020?
Vulture.
Vol. Check out Cicada, which Vulture says is one of the best books of 2024. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much, and thank you for reading. I appreciate
Of
it so
course.
much.
Thank you for your work. And yeah, good, much continued success with
Yeah,
that.
and I hope your mom starts to appreciate what you write.
Yeah, probably not going to happen. That's okay. Somebody
Yeah, what are
will.
you gonna do?
Somebody will
Somebody.
eventually. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.